Welcome back, everyone. Ready to dive into something interesting.
Always.
So today we are looking at this idea of tiny gains, right?
Right.
1% better every day.
Yeah.
Like you were saying, you sent me this article the other day, and it's all about making these tiny improvements and how those can have a big impact. At first I was like, really? Just 1%.
Right.
But the more I think about it, the more I'm like, maybe there's something to this.
Well, we talk a lot about the power of compounding when it comes to investing, right?
Right, right.
You know how even small amounts of money can grow significantly over time because of compound interest.
Yeah, yeah. Like that snowball effect.
Exactly. And it's not just about money. The same principle can be applied to any area of our lives.
So you're saying if we can get just 1% better at something every day,
Yeah.
that over time it can really add up.
Exactly. It might not seem like much in the short term, but over the long haul, those small gains compound and can lead to some pretty incredible results. It's like, imagine you start the year playing guitar
Uh-huh.
and you commit to getting just 1% better each day.
1% better each day. Okay.
Maybe you focus on, I don't know, your finger placement or your strumming technique, or you learn a new chord.
Right.
By the end of the year, you'll be astoundingly better than when you started.
It's funny because you actually mentioned you wanted to work on your guitar playing in your notes.
Oh, yeah.
And it's kind of like a perfect example of how those tiny little gains every day, they can really lead up to something pretty cool.
Absolutely. And you know what's fascinating? There's this article you shared with me about mention specific athlete or case study from the listener's stories, the athlete.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
And they talked about how they didn't become like world class overnight. They really focused on refining their technique by just a little bit each day,
Yeah.
tiny, tiny adjustments.
And it paid off huge in the long run.
Huge. And that's the power of consistency, right?
It's kind of like, it's kind of like that whole Rome wasn't built in a day thing.
No, totally, totally.
But sometimes it feels like we are so focused on wanting those like instant results.
Oh, absolutely.
We sign up for a crash course or we try to cram a bunch of information in a short period of time.
Yeah.
But maybe that's not always the best approach.
Well, I think it depends, right? I mean, some skills are probably better suited to that kind of intense, focused learning.
Okay.
But for many things, especially things like learning a language or developing a new habit, it's the consistency over time that really makes the difference.
So it's kind of like finding the right balance, right?
Exactly. It's knowing when to bubble down for a focused burst of effort and when to take the slow and steady approach. For me, with my guitar goals, it'll probably be a bit of both.
Yeah, right. So you could like take some lessons or workshops to really nail down the basics.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
And then just make sure to practice a little bit every day to keep those skills sharp.
Totally. And you know what's important too? Remembering that we don't have to be perfect every day.
Right. Like life gets in the way sometimes.
Exactly. Some days you'll be super motivated and you'll crush your 1% improvement goal. And then other days you might just barely manage to squeeze in a few minutes of practice.
Right, right.
And that's totally fine. It's the overall consistency that matters, not the individual days.
And you know what can help with that?
What's that?
Celebrating the small wins.
Oh, absolutely.
Like you were talking about how if we only focus on that big, far-off goal, it can be really easy to get discouraged, right?
Totally.
But if we take the time to acknowledge and celebrate those little victories along the way, it can help keep us motivated and on track.
And it doesn't have to be anything big either. It could be as simple as, hey, I managed to practice guitar for 10 minutes today, even though I was super busy. That's still a win.
Exactly. And it all adds up in the end. This whole deep dive has really made me think differently about how I approach my goals.
How so?
Well, like I said, I'm usually all about those quick fixes, but now I'm realizing the power of just chipping away at something a little bit each day.
And as you go about your day today, I want you to think about this.
Okay.
What's one thing, just one thing, that you could commit to improving by just a fraction, even just a tiny fraction each day? And then imagine where you might be a year from now if you stick with it. It's pretty amazing to think about.
Yeah, it really is.
It might be something small. Maybe it's reading for 15 minutes a day, or learning a new word in a different language.
Right.
Or practicing a presentation skill. Whatever it is, just imagine the cumulative effect of those small daily efforts.
It's really cool to think about how those tiny little actions can ripple.